Students at Loyola Chicago tell Fox News that they are more worried about walking the streets after Gorman's murder. Watch.
It's definitely really scary because going to the pier to look for the northern lights is something that I feel like a lot of us have done.
I feel like when it gets a lot darker, you feel a bit less safe.
I definitely am a lot more paranoid going out at night. Just yesterday, my friends invited me to go out at around like 10 o'clock, and I definitely didn't feel very comfortable going out.
Now, the Gorman family released a new statement today, again calling out Illinois Democrats for their failed leadership, writing this: "What happened to Sheridan was not a reflection of the Loyola community. It was the result of a failure outside of it. We will continue to demand accountability and real change more broadly so that what happened to Sheridan does not happen to another family." Meantime, the Chicago alderwoman who last week said that, remember this, Gorman's death was just a case of wrong place at the wrong time, that she startled the gunman, has closed her office, citing safety concerns after receiving serious backlash over those callous remarks. Last summer, a 21-year-old intern in Washington, D.C. was killed in the crossfire of a gang-related shooting. Now, the mother of the victim, fighting a similar battle, offering support to the Gorman family after Sheridan was killed.
I cried. I was angered. I was disgusted. This is an ongoing issue in Chicago. I was just really angered at that. And I'm angered that there are no people in positions, elected positions in these cities, in states. They just don't care. They don't care about us.
Tomi, I'm grateful that we continue to platform these devastated families. It is heartbreaking that it's a growing number. These numbers are not stopping, and yet the Democrats are still turning a callous and blind eye to the preventable cause.
Yeah, when I hear wrong place, wrong time, I agree with that in part. Wrong place, if it's an illegal alien who shot a young American woman, wrong place, wrong time, shouldn't have been here, shouldn't have been in the United States ever, not in 2026, not ever. So that's the wrong place, wrong time that I wish they would refer about this. But I will say, so many young American women are falling victim to illegal aliens. I mean, this case in particular with Sheridan Gorman is Laken Riley 2.0. It's a very similar story. So our young American women are being sacrificed at the altar of what? An addiction to the Democrats' love of illegal aliens? Platforming their love for illegal aliens, you know, in the midst of a shutdown over illegal aliens? I mean, when is the Democrat Party going to pay a political price for their continued advocacy for illegal aliens? How many more American women have to die before somebody does something about this, or before the Democrats move away from their addiction to this platform and this issue? I don't know, but one more is too many.
And I can't ever wrap my brain around that hypocrisy, Griff, in terms of the sensitivity. So they can discard, all of these lives are discardable to them. These American young lives that were snuffed out early, discardable to the Democrats at the expense of propping up and sort of shrining these illegal immigrants' lives, and then also closing office because of safety concerns. What about the safety concerns that Sheridan Gorman didn't get to have heard because she was killed?
It's a great point, and I was walking in my neighborhood last week. I saw a poster in a house. I don't know who lives there. It says, "Smash ICE, no deportations." That's exactly the far left wing of the party that the Democrats are catering to and shut the government down. But I'm glad Tomi mentioned Laken Riley 2.0. The pattern here, here's why it keeps happening. Because in the case of Laken Riley, an illegal alien from Venezuela with a criminal record committing crimes in New York killed Laken Riley. In Texas, you had Jocelyn Nungare killed by 2 illegal aliens from Venezuela that had ties confirmed to Tren de Aragua. And now you have Jose Medina, who has a criminal record, came illegally from Venezuela. All of these cases under the Biden administration during the border chaos that we watched, the whole country watched unleashed. And in the case of Medina, not only does he have a criminal record out on the street, he's got tuberculosis. And so you've got to wonder at what point do the Democrats, and particularly people like Mayor Brandon Johnson and Governor J.B. Pritzker, say, you know what, we're on the wrong side of this. We've got to get back to our fundamental core job as politicians, which is the safety and well-being of our constituents.
Yeah, when is the party of masks going to see him and cite him as the fomite and tumor that he is? Guys, I want to throw up on the screen for you, Carly, the coverage that the media has paid or not paid about this. So this, just in that horrible preventable death of Sheridan Gorman, 1 minute and 19 seconds for ABC. 2 minutes and 1 second for CBS. NBC, 23 seconds. Is that what her life is worth?
Her life is worth so much more than a grand total of 4 minutes, and we know that, and her parents know that, and everybody who matters to her knows that. And I also want to focus on the statements that J.B. Pritzker and Mayor Johnson released after this horrific event, because their statements also matter. They're city and state leadership, and they immediately pivoted by blaming Republicans and President Trump for her murder. And I find that shocking. No matter what side of the aisle you sit on, you know that's not true. You know, and I cannot imagine the pain that these parents are going through. We look at her, we see her picture, and we see her as a young college student. Her parents, her mom and dad, in their mind's eye, they see a baby, they see a toddler who said the cutest things in the world, and they see a little girl, rather a young woman whose promises will never be realized now. And then to have city leadership and state leadership whose sole job is to keep their constituents safe, blame President Trump and Republicans for the presence of an illegal immigrant in this country, when we all know that his sole focus is to get these people out, is absolutely insulting to the intelligence of these parents when they're mourning the death of their daughter. And I understand what they say when they say calling it a tragedy, what these leaders are doing, is not enough, because a tragedy by definition is an unforeseen event. This is absolutely predictable, given these sanctuary policies that keep these people in this country.
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, Chicago's got a problem, and Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson, you know, they go out, they make these statements, as you mentioned, Carly, and they try to play down what is happening in the city of Chicago. Out of 182 cities in this nation, Chicago is the 161st ranking when it comes to overall safety, 161. It is more dangerous in Chicago than it is in New York City, in Los Angeles, and many other cities across this country. They've let in 50,000 illegals since 2019. A lot of them, of course, coming through at the wide open border under then President Joe Biden. And what did they do there? They gave them free cars, free rent. They gave them food. You know, and a lot of the city residents in Chicago were very upset by this. They also, since 2019, they have fired over 2,100 public safety officers. So when you have less police, less public safety officers and individuals that are out there keeping the residents of Chicago safe, where do you think that's going to take you? That's going to take you to a story like we're now talking about today. And I wish I could say that this is the last time we're going to see this happen, but unfortunately it happens over and over. And I don't know y'all, but tired of talking about these types of stories. Enough is enough.
Can I just say one thing about the coverage that you put up there? And that's this. These Democrats are committed to this, you know, far left wing of no deportations and abolishing ICE, but it's because they see the minuscule amount of time that other media outlets play it. If you go back to when Bill Maloogian and I were down on the border nonstop, eventually the media organizations realized we can't ignore it. This is real. They began to show it everywhere. You had every network down there on the border. And what happened? The Biden administration tried to backtrack. They started to try and do things differently. Democrats tried desperately to not get clobbered in the 2024 election. It was too late for them. In this case, Democrats like J.B. Pritzker and Mayor Johnson are hiding behind, well, it'll pass. It'll be a short cycle. We'll get through it and we'll move on. But the problem is, to your point, Cheryl, is it keeps happening.
Well, the Fox News polls from last night showed that President Trump, his top issue still is border security, winning on that message, Emily.
Yeah. Absolutely, guys. Hey, everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.